What if we could do a combined show every week between where we talk a little bit of Grandville and a little bit of the area? Let's just say we do one, so we only record one show and kind of it gets like one audience, and the numbers on this show don't do as well anyway.
Okay.
And, you know, what if we call it like something whimsical, like the Tailgate Report?
Oh. Yeah, I like that. That sounds
That's
got
a good idea.
sound, yeah.
We'll see. Maybe for future years. That's just brainstorming.
We'll have to try it. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think it'll work. Roth, he'll turn, give, Terry, busting into the open field. There he goes, Jaden Terry, Grandville with an answer, and another Bulldog win. Give the Scurris fake, this in the backfield, evading a man, throws out of a tackle, incomplete. Zeros across the scoreboard. Harper Woods have won the state championship, their first in school history, in unbelievable, thrilling fashion. Fake handoff, guy up the middle, big hole, bursting over the 40 to the 45-50, angling right at the 40, 35-30, racing to the 25, 20, outside the numbers, 10, 5, touchdown, Muskegon, Mackay guy, 80 yards to the house. All right, everyone. Hello to YouTube. This is Behind the Call. Chandler Timmer, Nate Dreyer, Michigan Game Night. Follow us, you know where, at MI Game Night. Like and subscribe. Check us out on the MGN shop. Thanks to the Center Agency, Centennial Securities, and all the rest. And tune in on Fridays. We've got Grandville versus West Ottawa, live video coverage. That's everything taken out of the way. We should be there on time. I do have a repeat of my service that I had to with the jury duty last week. Hopefully we can either A, get things completely canceled, or it can go as well as it did for me last week, which involved me being very quickly out of there in terms of the list. I did get called. I did get called, and we were 1 for 1 being not chosen. So I don't know how much we can dissolve into it, but I did not have to sit on the jury for the first week of this. We've got a few more bullets left to dodge, but yeah. I did a good job.
Good start.
I did my job for the day. So thank you to the defense attorney who didn't feel that I was help his case to be up there. So thanks to him. Okay. Let's just get into it. We've got a packed show. We've got probably 2 whole shows worth of content today. And we are going to do it in one show because honestly, I don't know if this show's going to happen. This might be the last episode of the show of the year because at least in this current form, because next week we have 2 games, so I think we might just do one combined podcast. Future weeks, who knows? Maybe we just start, what if we could do a combined show every week between where we talk a little bit of Grandville and a little bit of the area? Let's just say we do one, so we only record one show and kind of it gets like one audience, and the numbers on this show don't do as well anyway.
Okay.
And, you know, what if we call it like something whimsical, like the Tailgate Report?
Oh. Yeah, I like that. That's
got
a good
idea.
sound, yeah.
We'll see. Maybe for future years. That's just brainstorming.
We'll have to try it. I don't know. I mean,
I don't think it'll work. But that's just my idea.
Okay.
And I'm thinking maybe like, what if I have my sister who's good at graphic design like whip up this little logo of like little cartoons of us like tailgating, like one flipping a burger and they're like sitting watching a game.
That's
or
really
something.
good, yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, you know, like, oh, it's like tailgate, like whatever.
Yep.
Wouldn't that be funny?
That would be really funny.
That'd be funny. What a great idea.
We should get on that.
What great branding. Like, why would, like, that sort of branding is just great. Why would you ever go away from that? Because it's a good brand.
Yeah. I don't know. Who made that decision?
I actually don't know. I don't know why.
Okay.
I thought it'd be neat to do 2 shows, and it turns out I don't know how neat it is.
I don't know.
It's just more graphics every week.
That's true. More work on your end, at least.
That's what I like to do. If it winds up being more work on my end, that's typically how I make decisions around here.
Okay. Just do it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's just jump right into it, shall we? So we're going to, on this show, we are first going to look at some snoozeteyou.com, and we're going to look at some mapatology and take a look at the playoff picture going into Week 8 and some of the main things we're looking at across West Michigan. You can just turn around there and look at it. And then we're going to do a segment where we're going to go through every single game we've done since we joined Michigan Game Night, both of us back in 2018. And this was inspired by a conversation we had a couple weeks ago trying to remember games, and we're going to try to guess what the scores of the games were, look them up at the end of each year, and then we're going to see who can have cumulatively the closest score to what it actually was.
All right.
So that's what we're going to do. So let's start with Mapatology. Let's just roll right into it here. And Division 1. What you see here, Grandville going to Hudsonville, EK going to Rockford, pretty much what you're going to get unless these two flip or unless you add Jenison as also being playoff eligible, which is very possible if they get to 4 wins. In that case, East Kentwood will bump to this district, which, that's not good for them. Obviously, Howell is the top scoring team right now in the state. I mean, this side of the bracket, folks, is so loaded. I mean, you go down, obviously, Davison's a 2 seed down here, and then you've got Catholic Central, Clarkston, Novi, all in that side, this side of the bracket as well. So that's really where it falls in D1. As we mentioned on their show, in terms of where we're going to be in the playoffs, it's going to come down to a little bit of TBD based on where Grandville goes. If they play Rockford, we will not have that game for sure. If they play Hudsonville, we're in discussions. We'll see how it goes. Otherwise, we will wind up elsewhere around the area. So Division 2, continuing on here. So you start by looking, obviously, the number one talking point is there's no Muskegon.
Yeah.
And Muskegon has got Byron Center, and they got Moeller from Cincinnati. They're going to have to beat Byron Center. So the thing about Muskegon, they're only playing 8 games this year, and they're going to have to beat Byron Center, I think, to probably even have a chance this week, which is crazy. They'll fit somewhere. So Traverse City Central down to D2 this year, interestingly. So you have this. This is one of the areas that we might be looking to do games, is we might just kind of be the D2 guys. Caledonia also fits in here, by the way. They're right now a 4 seed, and that would be interesting for them because, again, having to play Grandville the last week of the year, they might be sitting there at 5-4. Look at, they're all 4-3 teams around them as well. So that'll be kind of interesting for them on the whole. So that's really kind of where D2 is sitting at the moment. But again, right now, I think the game that we would most be looking forward to, and everyone would if we do go this route, would be what is Northview going to be, and then I think these two matching up. This could be. Winner here goes to the state championship game.
Yeah, I think so. I think those two teams both really good and have a really good chance to meet again there. Northview, a team that's really impressed and kind of out of nowhere a little bit, and we'll see through the final weeks of the season if they kind of keep that up and can go undefeated. But a really solid district there. But, yeah, that Mona Shores Byron Center game could be a real good one.
So Division 3 now, obviously kind of the first thing comes to mind here, Cedar Springs fitting in with getting right now currently getting to go north, and then you fall into a couple interesting districts of teams in the area. Of course, Grand Rapids, Forest Hill Central has now moved into being 1 seed. East Grand Rapids, Coopersville, Kanawha Hills, who just beat Coopersville. So kind of interesting how that aligns. Obviously, I think Forest Hill Central and Coopersville, the two teams that stand out. And then you go into the next region, which is where I think our Matt Geika will find himself for the most part on Michigan Sports Radio. That's where Zeeland West is. That's where Zeeland East is. So I think the main thing that stands out is more or less who wins this district and then what sort of position is Zeeland West in to make a run at the championship. Yeah,
Zeeland West, a team that early on looked like they could go on a serious run. I think if they're healthy, no doubt, could be there once again. Potentially Zeeland East in there as well. Forest Hill Central, a team that many expected to kind of take a step back in there as well and looking to go on a run.
Yes, I guess that would be the semis matchup against Forest Hill Central like last year. So this is really interesting. So Lowell, and then of course this is where I trust Snooze is 99% right a lot of the time on the way that these things align. Obviously DeWitt is really good this year, so that would be a tough test for Zeeland West. So that's interesting on the whole. And in D3 now on to D4, which I think is where you may wind up finding us a lot in this postseason. So D4, then this is the one that's been shifting a lot, and it's the one that I think kind of is going to be a little bit up in the air because the first look was going to be Unity being out with like Portland and Freeland and stuff potentially early. Now Forest Hills Eastern, Whitehall, they go north here, and then District 2 kind of fits into more of the traditional D4 district we see. Most notably right now, Unity Christian and South Christian together. Now, South Christian's got some tough games here. Like, South Christian is in danger of finishing this season Potentially at even 4-5. I think that still winds up being good enough for the schedule they've played, but you never know. So regardless, right now, based on the way the year goes, and if Grandville doesn't go on a run, I would probably say we've done the Unity Christian thing before, and I would probably say, especially if our South Christian team is done with this right away, we do have a Freeland team on Michigan Sports Radio that Freeland is Freeland moved to the other side of the bracket now with the way that teams have fallen, so that would not be an issue for us to Ford Field. I would say right now, Unity, a good chance along that D2 if Grandville doesn't go for a run of where you may find us. And actually, this might be where you might find us week 1. And we'll see if things stay. Hamilton's probably going to stack 2 losses. Holland Christian's probably going to stack. They'll probably go 1-1, I think, to close their season here. They've got Northview this week. So, I think regardless, though, we've done it before, and I think Unity's going to be they just throttled teams week in week. They just throttled South Christian. I think this year's Unity team is as dominant as the 21 team, but in a different way because it just feels like they're much more complementary than that team would just obviously they're the highest scoring offense in the history of the state, so they would just score points like crazy. The defense was great too, but there were a lot of possessions in those games. This year's team has an ability to play this complementary style where they grind the ball. They're very physical all over. This is I see a hard time of anyone that's not Unity Christian winning the D4 title right now.
Yeah, they kind of just seem like they're on the next level. One of their teams that has a serious chance, and got the chance to see them early in the season. And yeah, it just looks like if they can kind of keep that rolling, they're going to have a real good chance to win that district. Even the South Christian game, South Christian's still a team. It's just you've seen them win too many times in the playoffs that I understand they've played some tough games. They're sitting just above 500. They might lose again yet before the end of the regular season, but that's still not a team you'd want to play, even though Huntsville Unity Christian just beat them.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's definitely true. But once again, depending on what's going on, if there's not a Grandville game for us to do, and there's these other things in D2, and also we're going to try to stay away from until later in the playoffs being at the same games as others. Certain radio station. Yeah, 2 certain radio stations. So we're gonna try to kind of separate and find other games. So I would say this could be we'll have to price it on top of the press box at Holland Christian, but that could be a fun one that we may wind up being at based on the way things go. Let's take a look at D5, and then I'll wrap it up for a look at Snooze to You. So lastly, Division 5, and this is one again that'll be covered by Michigan Sports Radio, at least on the Catholic Central side of things. They remain a 1 seed. West Catholic fits in there. I mean, there are some really good teams, Notre Dame, Prep, whatever, on the other side of the state. But when it comes to probably who gets to go to Ford Field, I think it's this was an incredible matchup last year. And once again, I think that game, district championship, the good news is there probably won't be a ton of traffic at other games that we might want to be at in terms of other radio stations, because I think any game of the week, a lot of the other games of the week are going to be here, and MSR will have coverage of that as well.
Yeah, I think no doubt a marquee matchup when those 2 teams meet. So many state championships and teams that have gone on to Ford Field and looking like it could be one again.
Yeah, I mean, this side of the bracket is very much, Belding, Frankenmuth winds up fitting over here, which they're very good, and Belding's very good, but I think it really kind of fits into that. So, yeah, that's a look going into Week 8 at Mapatology. We'll see. Maybe, I don't know if he's watching this right now. Maybe I'll have Snooze call in to a show or something next week to go over, but again, you've got the Muskegon situation. You've got some of the stuff that we're watching in D1. You're watching D4 to see if another team from the other side of the state gets in and if it shakes things up again like it was. But for the most part, it's been kind of a straightforward year, and I think what you see is what you get right now in that playoff mix. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we are going to do our memory test, and we're gonna see who is the king of remembering everything that we've done for the last several years since we became an MGN. So we'll be right back.
We are Centennial Securities,
an independent firm with a team of committed professionals
who strive to exceed our clients' expectations by giving outstanding service.
We're proud to be part of our community where we live and work.
Gear up this season with the MGN Shop, featuring everything from t-shirts, sweatshirts, hats and outerwear, to water bottles, stickers, and other accessories that help show off your style and your support of Game Night, the Grandville Bulldogs, and more. To shop, click on the Shop Merch tab at the top of MichiganGameNight.com and browse nearly 50 items. And be sure to check in frequently as new items are added throughout the season. That's the MGN Shop through MichiganGameNight.com.
Upgrade to Music Jams Premium to get uninterrupted listening on all your favorite tunes. Click here to start your 7-day free trial.
If it's important, it's not worth compromising. Which is why with Farmers, you don't have to compromise quality to get great savings on your insurance. I got this.
We are farmers. Bum, 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 bum.
Game Night is presented in part by Farmers Insurance, Bennett Center Agency, for all auto, home, specialty, life, and commercial insurance. See what a sinner can do. All right, here we go. So behind the call, we are back. So this is a segment next up here where we've been doing games since 2018 now, and spurred on by a text conversation the other day where I was trying to name off Grand Valley women's hockey games and their results that I did when I was a freshman in college. I'm like, you know what? It would be kind of funny if we on the air tried to remember all the games we've done. And I was able to find all the games we've done, mostly this Grandville schedule, since we started, without seeing the scores. And then what we did is we just recorded about a 15-minute long segment because we were going to compare our knowledge against each other. And what we found is it was going to take way too long. And then we sat there and looked at each other, and we actually didn't have a good method of how to add up the scores against each other because we didn't know how to compare, like, I got one team score right, you got the other, or like you got the closer winning margin, but I got the right amount of touchdowns, and there was no good way to do it. So we decided that this is going to be a little bit more general conversation. We're going to try to remember things and run through the games, and then at the end of each year we may look up what happened. So, okay, here we go. 2018, year starts at Clarkston. We know that much. Grandville goes on, takes on the defending state champions. It's your first game on MGN. You were very nervous, and then the broadcast didn't work at the beginning either. Couple big plays. Here's what we were remembering. Again, this first year is going to suck because we just did all of this and didn't record it. Maybe we'll just play that. I don't know. So there's Jade Van Duzen had the throw over his head or to him that he dropped and would have won the game.
Right.
And then there was a trouble with the snap fumble.
In the big house.
In the big house, Clarkston wearing Michigan uniforms over their head. Trying to remember the score. All I know is a one-score game, and I think it was somewhere in, like...
It was low scoring.
It was low
it's
scoring.
Just a matter of if it was, like, one score low scoring or if it was...
Granville, I think, had 9. I think the number Granville had was 9 because it was a touchdown and safety. I want to say it was 14-9.
14-9?
Yes.
Okay.
That's what I think.
In the previous attempt at this, I had gone 20-18, but I do feel like that was too high. So
I for a fact know it was 9, I think. We'll see. Then De La Salle at Wayne State, they got blown out. And De La Salle was, again, also a reigning state champ, and I think they won it. Did they win it, or was that they had their season canceled because of the hazing thing? I think the hazing thing was a year later, possibly.
I think that was different. I do remember that being pretty early on.
And then they got Dan Roan, who pretty much hasn't lost a state championship minus Muskegon last year. I first said 28-7. You said in our first attempt at this that Grandville got a field goal, and I think that
it's possible. I know it was like 2 or 3 score game. It felt like they kind of were down the whole way, like kind of got dominated. But
I feel like it was 3 scores, and that's why I said 28-7.
28-7.
It was something in there.
Okay.
And we'll get this quick at the end. Then at Forest Hill Central, this was Cam Terry's kind of big burst on the stage. He had 4, I think it was 5 touchdowns and like 200 yards or something. Grandville won. You're saying Halleck was the receiver. He was there. Majic, the lefty, was the quarterback. They had a running back, too, because they were coming off state quarters appearance the year before. Semi's appearance, I think. I want to say Grandville scored like 35 or maybe 42, but they won it. There was 2-point conversion math they won it on. Like, it was like 34 to 30.
You have a breakthrough right
there
here?
was a no. Wasn't there? Both teams had a kick return in the game.
I was just going to say there was a kick return touchdown for sure.
And then Forest Hill Central got like an onside kick recovery. I feel like they went down and scored, then didn't they get stopped on a 2-point conversion? They were going for it to win.
That could be.
And I think it was a 1-point game because of that.
I wanted to say for sure 1-point game, and the score was escaping me exactly if it was.
And I remember Grandville holding them, or maybe Grandville got it, and then Forest Hill Central got the ball, I remember, with like 20 seconds to go and almost won the game.
Okay.
However it was. Whether it was Grandville, I think maybe it was Grandville got the 2. So I'm thinking it was somewhere in like 35, 34 range. I want to say Grandville scored at least 5 touchdowns, though, because I think Terry had at least 4.
Okay.
That's what I think. Grand Haven, that was the most points Grand Haven ever given up. It was right on the nose, 70, right?
Yeah, I believe. I know for sure the Bulldogs scored 70.
Yeah, so it was either 70 to 21, 70
something
to
like
14, something in there. Again, we have already discussed this one because the segment didn't work. But we did not look at these scores, so this is off the top of our head. And then what we'll do is while we're talking about this, I just want to put up so they know that we're not lying. I'm just going to like flash up the thing on screen every once in a while just so they can see what's actually going on. At East Kentwood, so this was Mozzie Smith's senior year, and we were discussing. So this was the moment where Shane Baker had the goal, the touchdown that he fumbled, and then East Kentwood brought back. So both teams thought they'd scored a touchdown. Yeah. I do think this was the one time East Kentwood beat Grandville.
I was thinking so too. I know there was one win.
I can't remember the score. I
remember it being pretty close. Yet it wasn't like a dominating East Kentwood win. It was one score.
One or 1.5 score game.
I had 35-27, like 7-8 point game.
Close, something like that, or it was in there. I agree. Then at Hudsonville, that was the overtime field goal loss, and we had both said 17-14.
That's what we said. Yep.
That sounds right to me. Maybe it was 24-21.
Could be.
But I feel like that was the year. I believe that was Coach Sandy's first year.
Okay.
Because they had run the Flexbone my first year at MGN. Back in the day, kids. And I know you all that play football now were 12 years old or younger. When this happened. I saw a highlight video the other day from a 2019 Grandville East Lansing game. Was I telling you about this?
I don't think so.
I saw a highlight video from that game popped up on my YouTube the other day. Camera pans on the sideline. It's on Grandville's sideline. Braylon Haney, I think it was Jaden Terry, come walking up. They look like they're 8 years old. I'm like, nope, that's not good. So regardless, yeah. So I don't. It was something. All I know is Hudsonville won by 3 points in overtime.
Yep.
I know that
goal right
for
at the
sure.
End. It was a rainy night.
Yes. I think was there maybe a Grandville fumble in overtime or something that gave them that chance. I can't remember. And then the classic West Ottawa game, the goal line stand game against Oshnok's team. And the main thing I'm trying to remember, Grandville won on a goal line stand, but was it a goal line stand where they were leading by? Were they leading by 6 and trying to win the game, or were they leading by 7 or 8, and it was just to avoid the game being tied?
I was thinking in my head it was they were down 7. They were marching. They could have scored, and it was like they kick the extra point to tie it or go for 2 to win it.
Yes.
That's what I was thinking, but I just remembered the goal line stand.
And I remember they ran out of time. Like they were going to have one more dive, and so I'm thinking it was in then the 28-21.
28-21, okay.
Range. I'm on my second chance. I'm thinking it was higher scoring than I first thought.
Yep.
At Rockford, then that was the 42-20 ish. That was the onside kick that was recovered by the kicker. Granville kind of fell apart in the second half. Granville, didn't they score one score on like a get out formation thing to I think it was Keith Bush, the old speedy linebacker they brought in. That's all I remember. It was somewhere. For some reason, I feel like I remember Rockford scoring 42. Now, I was there that both teams sucked. Like, it was that game was they were both, like, to make the playoffs or whatever. And then was Caledonia. You mentioned in our unaired one that was when the coaches were next to you. And I think you're right. I think the Cal coaches have been next to us a couple of times.
Okay. I just remember standing next to some of the assistants and trying not to offend them by anything I said.
Right. And I think Carson Vanderhoff, their great running back, was out. We'll talk about Vanderhoff in a second. I'm thinking like 35-10.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. All right. We'll just look up all of this. Again, I'm going to pull it up on screen. We're just going to look it up at the end for our own sake. So we're going to go through this whole thing just confidently thinking that we're getting it, and then we're going to like look at it off air when we're done. Okay, so 19, we start by going to Lockport.
Yep.
And this was the team that through 2.5 weeks was going to win the state championship.
That's right.
I remember at Lockport they went back and forth a little bit early, but it was, 42 to 20?
Yeah.
Yes, 49, I think maybe they
the
even
offense
scored.
was unreal, even against some really good teams there the first couple weeks. I remember we thought, for sure that was a state championship team. Jaden Van Dusen was running all over the place.
And then at East Lansing.
Yep.
And that was with Andrell Anthony.
Yes.
At East Lansing. And he caught one back corner of the end zone. I remember that. And it was similar. It was 40. That might have been 35, but they rushed. It was like 35 to 21 or something. And I remember the defense sacked their quarterback. They had that kind of stand in the pocket quarterback.
Yeah,
who was
he was
pretty
a big
good.
guy.
And then they went to a Wildcat quarterback because the first guy got sacked like 5 times in the first half. I want to say that was like 35-14 or 35-21 or something in there. And then Forest Hill Central came to Grandville that year. Van Dusen, Forest Hill Central kid, took the dirty run at his knee out of bounds. And all I remember is Grandville was up by 3 scores, and then they went to the first backup of 4 backups that we were going to see during this 2019 season. And I think Forest Hill Central brought it to within a 1-score game. And it finished like 35 to 28 or something with FHC with the ball, and I think they threw a pick to end it.
Okay.
I feel like someone on Grandville got a pick to end it.
Yep.
That's all I remember.
Yep. I know the offense in the time Van Dusen was in there had already scored a bunch of points.
Yeah, and I don't think they scored after.
It was like they completely stopped after that, and we're kind of starting to get worried.
Okay, and then at Grand Haven, we'll try to move through this. So then at Grand Haven, so then they've got the first backup whose name I cannot remember, but he transferred to Lowell after this one game because Ian Sanders was waiting behind him.
If you gave me enough time, I could maybe come up with it.
Number 14?
Yeah.
Regardless, this was like 28-14. This game was close. I remember Cam Terry got hurt in this game too, and like we thought, it's really over. So it was at Grand Haven. Just everyone was already bummed after the week before. You had your first of 6 torn Achilles or knees during this season because there's going to be a few more coming. Then versus East Kentwood. Okay, this was the game that we didn't do the finish of because there was a weather delay. It went to the next day, and then I went to Michigan and Rutgers the next day.
Okay.
And that was the Michigan-Rutgers game that Michigan hung 70 on them with Shea Patterson.
Okay.
I remember more about that, but I believe Tommy Gregor caught a touchdown to win the game like 35-28 after it.
Yeah, it was like, were they down at whenever the game was called?
They were down or tied.
Then they came back and like kind of dominated that Saturday.
Yeah, they were like down with the ball or something.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember watching the broadcast of that remainder of the game and being excited that they had kind of out of nowhere turned things around. But
versus Hudsonville, this was the game they led by 2 scores at the half, and then the baseball player.
Yep.
Who transferred to Orchard Lake, and now he's at Auburn. Ike Irish?
Ike Irish,
yes. They brought him in, and they ran quarterback power 30 straight times, and they won the game like 42 to, like they wound up winning by two scores. It was the craziest thing I've never seen a team only literally run one play for an entire half like Hudsonville did, and they literally, that's all they did. As they brought Irish in from being a receiver to a quarterback, and they ran one play.
Yep.
The entire second half, and they won the game by like 2 scores because of it. At West Ottawa, I know they won.
They won.
That was not the final night, obviously, of the stadium.
No.
The old one, because that would have been in 21.
Yeah.
Because it's the third year of the new stadium. Because we were there for the final night at the old stadium.
Yep.
I don't remember much. It wasn't. The game didn't have very much juice. I don't. Because it was the year that West Ottawa started to fall. It was probably 35-14. I remember Cam Terry had a couple. All I remember is being a tough game to call because it was rainy. I remember it being rainy. It was that old low press box, and it was really difficult. Was that the game when the scoreboard went out for the entire second half?
Oh, yeah, I bet it was.
I think that's what it was.
Yep.
So that's why we don't remember the score.
Yeah, we didn't see it.
That was the other time we had the scoreboard go out. Remember the Civic Center Saturday game when one of the prep schools, whatever one, came to Julian Roper before he transferred.
Yeah, what's that?
I think it was DC.
Yeah.
DCD came to play Grandville because both coaches were Hope grads at the Civic Center. And this was Was this pre-Reno Civic Center?
I think it was post.
I think it was post. I think it was
Because
first
we
year
made a
post.
comment the scoreboard should not be broken right now.
Yes, that's right. And the scoreboard didn't work the whole game, so we had I by hand at the bottom of my sheet kept score of the game. It was something. Saturday afternoon game. 4 people were listening. It was something. And then they lost, and Julian Roper transferred from DCD to Orchard Lake or whatever the next day. It was neat. So and then versus Rock, they won.
Yeah,
that was the Rockford
that
win.
was
That was 28 to it was 28. 28-7, something like that. They won by 3. There was a pick 6 with Dash Harima had a pick 6. Cam Terry had a touchdown, I remember. It's all flooding back. And then the Vanderhoff game. I think Carson Vanderhoff ran for 330 yards, I want to say.
It was 300 plus. I remember that.
And it was 42 to it was like a 2-score. I remember Cam Terry tried to keep up with him, but it was it was like 42 to 28 or something.
Yeah, it was like every time they touched the ball, he was just breaking a long touchdown run.
Can you imagine if Vanderhoff was on that 2022 team? And then Grand Haven. Okay. And then also the Caledonia game, Zach Vanderwest, I think, tore his ACL. Ian Sanders tore something. Someone else tore something. There were like 3 ACLs that were sacrificed on the old turf or the old grass surface at Caledonia. And then they lost, was it 28-21, 28-14 or something, with Carson Smith as a freshman in that game to Grand Haven.
Yep.
That was kind of the low point right there. And 2020, we got shut down, and then we came back. Started with Grand Haven. We thought we'd just stay outside because Eric, that used to own MGN, was very hypersensitive about the situation in 2020, and he just was automatically trying to get us outside. And then, I remember I showed up and I asked Charlie at Grandville, all right, where do we have to be? He's like, you can be in the press box. Why did Eric say I have to be outside? And we sat inside. They won. I don't know what the score was. They won that game. That feels like one of the 50-something.
Yeah, there's multiple times they were right around the 60-point range, I want to say. Where not quite the 70, the ridiculous one, but a bunch of ones where it was just a kind of a complete dominant game. Okay, so
at East Kentwood, they won that game pretty convincingly, too. I don't remember how it was in the 35-14-ish range. It wasn't. I remember EK scored some points, but it wasn't really up for grabs too much. And then at Hudsonville, this was the Marcel Love score with 50 seconds to go. What was it, 21-17, something like that, 20-17.
Yeah, it was a late score. We were outside, right?
Yep.
We were underneath.
In the rain.
In
that tent
snow,
that we were holding down. Yeah.
Getting hand warmers from grandparents and parents of.
Because we were among the Grandville people. It was actually pretty fun on the whole. I mean, thankfully we didn't break any gear. If we tried to do that today with all the crap that we have, we probably would have broken something.
Probably.
That was a simpler time. Versus West Ottawa in 20. I know they won. Mm-hmm. I don't know if I remember a single detail of that game.
Oh.
I think it was a blowout.
It must have been. This had to be Bosma years, right?
I think it would have been Bosma's junior or senior year.
Okay.
I think he may have scored a couple times, but it was 49-21 or something. I remember them Grandville giving up more points than we thought they should have. It's happened before. It's actually interesting to kind of think about the way, the identity of the team changing and how they become such a dominant offense here as we go through this more. Versus Cal in 2020, this was the game. This was another one. Rainy night. This was at Granville. This was Mason McKenzie as a sophomore played his first snaps and threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
And Granville won 42-14 or something.
Yep. Because I remember Mason McKenzie kind of struggling in that game, and then the next season when we get there, being I don't really get the hype because he kind of struggled in the game we saw him.
And now he's the 4th leading rusher in the GLIAC. At Rockford in 20, that was 28-7, the regular season game, wasn't that cool? Well,
yeah.
So I'll go to my grave. Granville won the league championship that year.
Oh, that's right.
If you remember, Rockford canceled 2 games.
Yep, they played fewer.
So they had fewer wins in conference than Granville, but the OK decided that we were going to go off of win percent, kind of like what the Big Ten did that year for a certain team. And they decided we're going to go off win percentage that year to see who makes the whatever. And then, because they canceled I think EK and Hudsonville, like 2 teams that could have beaten them, I remember. And it was like, what are you doing? Granville won more games to beat those teams.
Right.
And it was like, no, because Rockford's unbeaten. And, then the Orange Wall came to their defense. And this was when we were owned by MSR, so I can be fully anti. We were made to sit out. They had an open spot. I'm going to say this. They had an open spot it was COVID, obviously, but they had an open booth they had an open booth in the press box, and here we are. That's my little thing that I put the computer in. There's Chandler, all cold. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was actually the playoff game because we did it 2 weeks later. That was cold that night. That's, I think, not the coldest game we've ever done. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
So then Grand Haven District quarterfinal blew them out. Traverse City West District quarterfinal, they had, what's his name, Blavin, that's on Michigan now, the punt guy. He was on that team. That's all I really remember about it. Was that the game that the kid got paralyzed? No, that was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Not paralyzed, but we paused the game for 35 minutes. Like it was a big situation. Listen, folks, come do racing. Like we have actual injuries and that stuff. And then the double or triple overtime.
That was
triple overtime.
Yeah.
Grandville, Rockford, and of course there was the
double
reversed Philly special thing in there, and that was Cummings' kind of first aggressive year. And then, if you remember, they lost going 4-2, I believe, a couple of rounds later to Grand Blanc because they kept that same energy. 2021, at Glenbard, Illinois, they lost, but we didn't do that game.
No, we did not.
I was at Gateway for the IndyCar race that year.
Okay.
Versus UDJ, 50-0. I remember that score.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't remember much else about it, but I remember 50-0.
Okay.
At Caledonia, then that was whatever. That was the
Mason McKenzie
21. It wound up being a score and a half game, right? It was like 21-10.
Yeah, like back and forth.
Yeah, it was back and forth, and then Cal got too late. We were outside. I remember we're always outside at Cal. That was before they had their own broadcast. There was another team that was there that we had to stay outside for them because we always, when the other team is there, we always bow down to them, yet they hate us.
Makes sense.
Do you have anything more to add?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I was just waiting.
Versus Rockford, we didn't do it. That would have been a Brock thing. That was after we went to MSR. Mm-hmm.
That was a crazy game, though, too, right?
Was that the crazy game, or was it 22? That was the crazy game, because I went double overtime, too, I think, because we were listening to it on the way home, I remember.
Yeah, I remember watching or listening to that one, and that was just very similar to the Cal script, where it was kind of back and forth, trying to steal possession somewhere in there.
Yeah.
Ended up losing, but it was a really good game.
And again, this is a 21 team. We were the other day after a game. We were trying to remember kind of who the running backs and stuff. This was kind of like an in between year a little bit. It was obviously between the two Terrys. I think Tyson was up as a sophomore, possibly.
Yep.
Cade Pilzik was one of the running backs. They had a mix of guys like Albrecht at fullback, obviously Ian Sanders at quarterback. We did Allendale Unity. That was our first time doing the 21 Unity, and it was like sneaky one of the closest games Unity played, and it was a 40-point game. It was bad. Grandville versus Jenison in 21. I remember it was the first time we ever did Jenison. Mm-hmm. Did we do that game, or did we do something else? I think we did it.
Did we do that game?
I remember nothing about it.
I really don't remember either.
I know they won.
They won?
I don't remember much about Jenison games, honestly.
No.
I remember the game there because I remember it being like 28-0 in the first quarter there, like the following year. Yeah, because we went there the following year. We haven't done it. We've avoided Jenison Grandville games the last couple of years. We've decided that's a good week to do whatever. No, I mean, probably not anymore, though.
Yeah, might have to start
things have
going
changed. At Grand Haven, we didn't do that. I was doing that event that I do, the American Speed Festival, for the first time. So, someone got hurt in that game. That's all I remember.
Okay.
Like someone suffered a multi-week injury in that. Versus East Kentwood. I know they won. I think. Yeah.
Yeah. What? There was a game where EK just threw it all over. They ended up losing, right? Or is this that game?
Yes, because they started out of the I form a lot, then they started throwing it all over.
Yep.
And I think this was it.
Okay. It was one of the EK games.
Yes. I don't remember the score at all. Versus Hudsonville then. 21. So I know they won because Grandville hadn't lost to Hudsonville since 19 until a couple days ago. This was a close one. It was a one-score game. I know that much. Because the only non-one-score game, well, until last week was in 22. I don't really remember much. This would have been Carr. What was that quarterback? Trey Carr. Would have been his junior year, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember much about it.
I really don't either.
They went back and forth. It must have been 35-28 in there. At West Ottawa, this was the final night at the old stadium in Grandville. I remember West Ottawa scored one early. I think it was 7-7. It's oh, they got the last night magic. And then it was 50-7 because that was when it's crazy the way that team had 30 players at the end of the Oshkosh era. It was it's crazy to think the way that he's built up Northview now so effectively, similar to what for where that thing crashed out at the end at West Ottawa. Versus Traverse City West District Semis, that was the game where the kid got hurt. And again, it was a blowout again. It was 50-14 both years against Traverse City West. At Rockford District Final, I know they lost. I don't remember much more about it because then we were on Unity Christian. So Unity Christian that year they beat Grand Rapids Christian. Mm-hmm. Then they beat Cadillac. In the Snow Bowl with Cody Mallory from Spring Lake. Mm-hmm. That was and it was close-ish. Because I remember too, it was a 14-0 game, and then Cadillac busted a 50-yard run right at the half or whatever. And again, there was that much. It was I've never seen so much snow. It was crazy. So they did that, and then so that was the regional, and then the semis was the coldest game we ever done outside. Again, same other broadcast crew was there that made us sit outside. Also, we were promised. That was the one I remember. Was at Portage Northern, and the guy said he'd have a table and everything set up, and he didn't have any of it set up for us. Right. So we had to be outside, and it was sub-zero, wasn't it?
I think so.
I remember putting hats on our gear, trying to keep it from freezing. Looking inside, you have room in there for us, but whatever. They didn't. And then that was Edwardsburg, and then the state championship game. Everyone knows what we're talking about. So 2022 year starts at Flint at Grand Blanc. Jaden Terry's first game. That's the main thing.
He's really not going to be very involved in the offense to start.
No, Stiegel tells me, no, we're going to ease him in the game, 25 touches? I'm okay. I scored a couple times. What was it, 35, 14?
Yeah, it was. They won by at least 2 or 3 scores because we kind of thought Grand Blanc was pretty good going into that one, really.
Well, they were off a state semis, I believe. Mm-hmm. But they lost several pieces.
They did.
Regardless, it was somewhere in there. Byron Center, that was a game that was closer. That was both teams scored a lot.
Yeah.
Tyson Mann had a kickoff return that I used for 2 years in our intro. That was the first ever. That was a throwback. First time they wore the throwback uniforms. No, they had worn the throwback uniforms that Caledonia game in 21.
Okay.
The Mason McKenzie's game. I don't know why I remember that, but I remember them wearing. They wore the legit,
full on,
the full on championship team the night. Oh yeah, because it must have been 25th anniversary.
Oh, okay, that would make sense.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember that Byron Center. It was 42-35 or 49-42 or something. I feel like both teams might have been in the 40s. At Hudsonville, that was the score and a half, 2-score win. That was the 42-28 win. That was the only time that Grandville won that game by multiple scores. Versus West Ottawa, that must have been a blowout. I don't remember a single thing about.
Home against West Ottawa.
I remember nothing about that game. Nothing. All right, moving on. Versus Cal, Mason McKenzie, 7 touchdowns.
Yep.
I remember that. It was 42-. It was a one. It should have been a 1-score game, but it was 2 because it was a 9-point game because of 2-point conversions, I think. But, they had at least 49.
Yeah, they had
doing math. Grand Valley State alum boys. At Rockford, they lost. Where were we that night? 22. That the first time we did. No, because we did Muskegon Mona Shores later in the year for the first time we went there. That was what we did the last week of the year, I think. Where were we that week? Oh, I was gone. We didn't do a game.
Okay.
I remember it worked out like how it worked out this year a little bit. So we didn't do a game. At Jenison, that was the game where they led like 28-0 in the first quarter.
Yeah.
And
it
it was
pretty
like
sloppy.
It was bad. That's all I remember. It was just being a terrible game, and it was, I don't know what the score was, like somewhere in the 49 something other range. Versus Grand Haven, I'm sure it was 65-21 like they always are.
Another one of those. Yeah, I think exactly.
It's actually, we're having a harder time with 2020. 2022 is like a blank year to me for some reason. I don't know why.
The 2018 ones I remember a lot better than I thought I would, but I think it's just because they were fresh and I don't know, there's just things that stuck out about the Big House and all that kind of stuff. And like we start to get in this middle stretch of the OK Red and where we've seen these teams play like 7-8 times.
Yeah.
And they're all blending together.
So 22 at East Kentwood, that was the night that we did Muskegon Mona Shores for the first time. I know Grandville beat East Kentwood. And then Muskegon pretty comfortably beat Mona Shores in the game we did. And then Caledonia District semifinals, that was Carson Smith got full circle. Carson Smith got hurt. What was it? Medeiros was out too, and that was one of the games. We had the discussion the other week on the show of me yelling at fans for crap talking refs into the crowd mic. That was one where I had yelled at Caledonia.
That's
fan.
right.
I don't think he heard me. I think that was one where I screamed out the window and they didn't hear me.
Okay.
I remember there being, like, they were just, it was 21-7, and they were just all over the refs for something ridiculous. Just, like, they were swearing in the mic. I'm like, y'all are up big. And then we became Caledonia people.
Yeah,
then, actually, we did big numbers. Those are huge numbers, that playoff run for whatever. For that Cal was, like, 7, 8, like, unique views, which is pretty, like, big views. So then it was Grand Ledge, where they had the kid that now plays running back for Hope, but he went to Grand Valley for like a week before he wound up going to Hope.
Okay.
Whatever, that like Wildcat quarterback. He got hurt in that game.
Yeah.
Grand Ledge. And then they had Clarkston. And that was another that was cold in the press box.
Yeah. That was a close game too,
Close-ish. Right? No, they shut him out. It was like 21-0.
Okay.
That's right. That's why I remember they shut him out.
Yep.
And then state championship where they led Belleville at the half.
Yeah.
And then Underwood didn't even play. Underwood just ran.
He just started to run, yeah. He didn't really throw the ball that well.
And then it turns out he's 6'4", 220 pounds and flies, so it works out. They didn't have Grandville's team there that was strip sacking him in the... I've never been more fired up about a team in my life than I was in that scrimmage, by the way, when I was watching them strip sacking Underwood. I'm like, oh my goodness.
State championship, here we come.
And then go back and forth with that Pick North game, and I'm like, I don't know what this is going to be. Last year, we didn't do Grand Blanc. Grandville, I think Jaden had 5 touchdowns. They lost at Davison, like 42-21, but it was closer in the score because Davison pulled away with the trick play to start the second half. At Grand Haven, we did that game for some reason, but it was closer than other Grand Haven games.
It was.
That was the game. A couple things stand out. Where Stiegel got tackled on the sideline.
Right.
And then at the end of the game, I don't know and I don't know if I'm talking out of turn, but I feel like the coaching staffs had beef at the end of that game.
It did seem like something with the handshake or something afterwards.
I remember there being something at the end of that game.
Was that the first game under the new coaching
staff? Yes, that was Beaton Bender's first game.
Okay.
Yes. So there was something I remember in that game with that. There was something else because did Jaden get hurt in that game?
That might have been.
He got
tweaked the ankle. Yeah,
I know. I know Cam got hurt at Grand Haven once. We talked about that in 19. But versus East Kentwood, we're now struggling to remember games from last year. What happened last year against East Kent? Oh, that was the game where we did video for the first time and it sucked. Grandville won, but I don't remember what. It was like 35 to something.
Yeah.
Or no, they scored even more. I can't remember. But I remember the video sucked. Versus Hudsonville then, that was the back and forth crazy game. You weren't there.
I missed that one, yeah.
And again, crappy video. This is before we got the huddle cam figured out. So it was crappy video, and it was like 42-36 or whatever, back and forth. And you know, I think our intro at the start of this, that touchdown was the go-ahead score from Jaden in it. At West Ottawa, we didn't do. I was gone. I'm listening to it because Sadinsky and was that Naraki got hurt in that game, or Naraki get hurt in the Caledonia game? They had multiple injuries.
Yeah.
In that West Ottawa game, it was again closer than, like, they gave up a couple more scores than they probably should. Again, this week Saturday or this week Friday, like, West Ottawa can score, I think, more than you have to be ready for them. But then at Cal, they of course won. That was Cash Ruff multiple times deciding to ignore a play call and just scored.
Just ran,
and it worked out. Versus Rockford, they lost, and we were. Where did we go? Oh, we sat here.
Yeah,
that was
right.
that
We did the
thing.
whip around show.
Yeah. That game was close-ish. It was cold and rainy.
Yeah.
It was cold and rainy for like every game last October. For as nice as the weather's been this year, it was bad. Versus Jenison, that was when we went to Grandville, killed them, but we went to the Holland Christian Unity game.
Yeah.
Where Holland Christian, where Boyce was 36 for 36 passing or whatever. And it was, I don't know what, half of Unity got hurt. And it is funny that was the exact same. That Unity team's the same core. All those guys are back, and they're this dominant. They were just that banged up and whatever last year.
Yeah, the entire reason I was late on the Unity hype train this year was because of that
Yeah.
game. Because I saw them and things weren't pretty for them necessarily.
And why we were probably early to the Holland Christian
True.
hype train, even though they were all different. Like, one team had all the same players, they had all different players, whatever. And then Grandville beat Hudsonville District semis game. They came from behind in 21 to. They won it was 2-point conversion. It was 22-21, I think. Rockford District final, they lost. Where were we that night? That wasn't. Where did we go to? The Boonies out in
that was
Oak Ridge.
Yeah, Belding. No.
Yeah, it was Oak Ridge and Belding.
Yeah.
What year was that? Was that 20? Seriously, what year was that?
I'd have to look that. I shouldn't look that up, but that wasn't last year, was it? That was more than a year ago.
No, because it must have been 20. It must have been it was the Cal year, because it was district final. Caledonia played Rockford.
Okay.
Because it was the 22 graphics package. I remember that because it was before we did the booth cam and stuff.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, that's what happened. So then we were, where were we? So just Rockford district final. That was Muskegon Mona Shores district final.
Okay.
And then we went to, because we bounced around a little. Then it, you know why I'm laughing. Then it was the Byron Center East Lansing night. There's a story that's not getting told on the air. It was that night in that press box with that situation. And then it was
in Greenville.
Game at Greenville, the debut of the in the booth cam that you love so dearly.
Yes.
And then
we're doing what?
And then I'm like, and then it turns out I'm the only person that watches the YouTube streams of these other of the Learfield teams calling games, because I find it interesting to watch them work. Mostly I like to watch your favorite radio broadcasters and how much they just lean on their spotter. That's my favorite thing to do when I watch these things, is like all these guys that are you think so great, especially TV announcers, it solely just comes down to they have a good voice and they lean on a spotter a lot. I'm not taking all away from guys, but there's a lot of guys that actually can't. There's a certain university based out of Syracuse, New York, that turns out guys that all sound the exact same and they all call games the same way, and it's like this very corporate whatever, and they all lean on spotters a lot. Some of them are good. Mike Trico is terrific.
He is very good.
Others are less good that come from that school. And they also, if you want to win an award while you're in college,
just
go
to
Syracuse, because they get 15 of the top 25 every year in the Broadcaster All-American rankings. And then state championship, we did 2 games. We did the South Christian loss and the Muskegon win. And then this year, which we did a Pickerington North game.
I remember
and then we did a Davison game.
Yep.
Can we remember the games we did this year? And then we did... Then was I gone? Then I went to Nashville.
3, you were gone.
And then I came back and we did Bird Bowl.
Yep, East-West.
And then we did Unity West.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was gone.
Bye week.
And then we're in Hamilton.
Yep.
And now we're in Grandville twice. And Zeeland West on whatever. All right. We're going to look at the games now because whatever. You've all seen them coming up on screen. I'm just giving myself more editing, but I think that'll be a good thing to add up. So, all right, that's that segment. I have no idea if that worked. It went for 40 minutes, though.
Hopefully we were close at least. I don't know.
So that's every game we ever did. Hopefully that's a little bit of fun to try to remember. I don't know. Hopefully we were impressive enough drawing some of that stuff out.
You beat me
out of thin air.
You've got a lot more of the details than I do. I know that, but
I don't. I'm a freak, dude. I could probably, if you let me really, if you show me the score of the games, I'd probably actually be able to. And it's probably because I called it, and I mostly have memories of call. It mostly is if I had a call I didn't like. Because if I screwed up a call, it's going to be like innately in there. With the Hound Sentinel journalist that was next to us on Friday, he enjoyed an outburst that I have after I screwed up a call. Because I was not happy with myself, and I quickly outburst something, and he was acting like he wasn't listening to us, but
he was.
He was.
You got a chuckle out of that.
And I got a chuckle. I would imagine most people get a chuckle. That was whatever.
I do, but I usually have to act serious so that you can get your anger out, and then we're good.
Yeah, that's normally it. So I take it out on you. I'm not abusive, folks. Most of the time.
No, other than when you're about to throw the pen at me, but
I'm not even going to do it this week because you're on it. 6:30. See you then. MichiganSportsRadio.com and the Michigan Game at YouTube.
I knew it.